CPA committee meeting to order. Public comments? Approval of the minutes from April. Any changes? Questions? Concerns? Comments? No? Anyone want to make a motion to pass the...
Make a motion to pass the
April 2013 minutes?
second.
All right, all in favor? Opposed? Right, great.
What you got?
I don't know. It's okay. It's okay. So we kind of really only have two things on the agenda today. The review of the preservation plan that we attempted to do last meeting, which didn't go so well. But hopefully this version that everybody got on Sunday is condensed and more general, and Jamie has done a fantastic job in starting to get a hold of people and get their priorities.
It's a very
Just like
difficult
pulling
thing to do.
teeth, I know.
Very difficult thing to do.
I know. But we are starting to hear back from people, which is great. So that is in there as well. And then the second thing we're going to talk about, if we have time and people are feeling up to it, is the public hearing, which is next month. So the preservation plan does require us to hold a public hearing, so the community members can weigh in if they have questions, concerns, comments. But we also hold a public hearing every year anyhow. So that is what's happening next month. So I just wanted to quickly check in with everybody about it.
Did we have one of those last year?
Yes.
Yes, we did.
In May, and no one showed up.
I can't recall that.
Exactly. No one from the public.
No, I can't recall even going to that.
No, you were here.
I was.
Yeah.
Oh, no, could have
Officer
been
at the time.
Must have been on something.
So, did people have a chance to at least give a glance at the plan? I'm gonna just
Pretty good.
open it up for discussion, really, because it's all of us here. And shoot, you look like you have things to say.
No, he's not going to say anything. Somebody says somebody doesn't agree with it. No, I guess I'll talk.
Please.
I think it was an improvement because it was a lot more condensed. I think that was good. I still have a little philosophical problem, and it's both in this. I didn't print the draft out, so I'll kind of be working
Okay,
from
that's
memory. But there's a couple of things that are troubling a little to me, and one is we're still going a little bit toward the first. The renters program, and now we're also talking about providing
Right.
like mortgage, like down payments on mortgages. And I don't necessarily think that's the CPA's job.
Right.
I'm all for projects, making affordable housing, but I'm not necessarily for, the words community and preservation are, to me, this is general taxes that come from tax-paying households, and I'm not sure it should be directed to individuals. It can be into a project where it makes it more affordable for individuals to live, but I'm not sure I'm comfortable with providing individuals. Also, what's the mechanism if we do that? And along with this, I think what I would like to see, and this goes whether it's housing or historic,
Yeah.
I'd also like to see these appendix, like almost a disclaimer on there saying that this is their priorities, but in no way are we bound by their priorities. In other words, I do think we should consult with them, but we are an independent committee, and just because whatever the group feels this is what they want for their top priority, if we see a project come along that's sixth on their priority list, or not even on their priority list, that we should have full authority to fund it. That's our job as a Community Preservation Commission. So those are two of my concerns. So it's not just the renters, because I know Ben took it out, it just says there'll be support for renters and support for first-time home buyers, but then if you flip it down to the appendix, those are I think reading here, the housing, and again, going back not to housing, but their first priority is to give people down payment.
Yes.
Now, we do have a program run by CDC, which is a first-time home buyer program. It gives them the mechanism to go out and get a more favorable rate, but there's other grants that are provided to get them those better rates. It's nothing that, at least in the time I've been here, that the CPA has actually fronted actual cash to people, so.
And you are, right, so I think everybody knows that I also sit on the Equal Housing Partnership Committee, and, yes.
Believe it or not, I would like to set some funds aside, not a lot,
Okay.
but for like a trail run, and give the housing something that's not going to kill us, something that just that would initiate a program, just to see where it's going to go. I'm with Councilor Hagan on all this whole thing, but talking to Jessica, I think she would really like to make some kind of groundwork on something like this. And knowing her, I would just love to see where she would take that. And not on a grand scale, not on a big scale. But, I'm not sure what the minimum would have to be on something like that. $5,000 or 10 or something, something not really big, but enough to try to get something going, just to see where she would go with that. Because I talked to her numerous times.
But who would administrate her? In other words, who would make the decision?
Why do we don't know? I mean, all I'm saying is...
Who would make the decision? 5 people come forward and say, I need help with my rent. Who makes that decision?
All I know is...
There's a lot of mechanisms that would have to go into...
knowing her,
Then maybe
when she gets things organized and when she does things, I would like to see it get off the ground. Just out of curiosity. So.
Just want to put it out there that the project that the Housing Partnership prioritized is their list, but I agree that the appendix should more clearly say this is not representative of the CPA. It's
Right, it's not in any way binding on CPA.
But, the projects that are illustrated, I think, in the housing, it just says examples of eligible projects include, and it's up to whoever is applying for that. If someone wants to do a first-time homebuyers program run for, people of low and moderate income where they get some subsidy from the CPA committee, that's all to be determined by the applicant and the CPA committee at that time.
But do you think a homeowner or a future homeowner is going to show up here and say, okay, I want a payment? Or someone's going to say, I want to do this for 15 people and I'll manage it.
The way that the planning department would want to see it happen is the latter. That there's someone who comes in, the PVPC or any number of
Says we want
local
to define a program.
housing groups that want to start a program,
manage it.
and the CPA would either bond the money or loan the money or do something, whatever agreement the committee wants to do at that point in time to help that program get started. But that at least as I was envisioning it, and I think as the Housing Partnership was envisioning it, was not to have it as a just people would come to the CPA committee one at a time and say,
Oh, no.
Because there's income qualifications, there's stuff that, it's way too complex for the planning department to handle, or the CPA committee to handle, probably even the Housing Partnership to handle. It would probably have to be a standalone group that, there's a contract and agreement and all those things
That makes sense.
clearly spelled out, but
And I will, not to totally interrupt you, but I did just interrupt you. I will say that our last housing partnership meeting, this is sort of sidetracked, but we had someone from the Mass Housing Partnership come and talk to us about the creation of a housing trust fund, which is something that the Housing Partnership Committee has been really interested in doing. And the Housing Partnership still want to look at that possibility, but the woman from Mass Housing Partnership really said that the way most communities fund that is through CPA, and it's usually in communities that don't have any affordable housing, or like towns, not cities, that have no other mechanism to provide people with any affordable housing. And so after hearing that, I think the Housing Partnership Committee was really thinking more about the feasibility of that and all the complications involved in it, and that the Housing Committee would never run such a program, and so it would have to be somebody in the city, and where would that sit, and it just brought up this whole slew of issues that I think we hadn't been talked about before. So I would say, I can't speak for the whole committee, but these priorities were set before we had that meeting. And so it wouldn't shock me if there was some either backing away from these or kind of realizing oh geez, it's a lot to think about.
these are the ones that the Housing Partnership put in, they're now in the appendix? Those?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
So
So just a heads up that that is where it is. I do agree with Jamie that we did say these are examples of eligible projects, not things that we necessarily would fund. I mean, it's up to you guys. If you are uncomfortable with this language being in here and in the plan itself, I think the appendix does need to represent what the groups gave us.
Yes.
But if you're uncomfortable with language in the plan itself and you feel like it's too specific and it's going to cause issues.
I would be, but again, I'm only one vote.
Well, I feel
And I
like
don't have a
I'm
problem
that.
with the housing partnership putting it in there.
Right.
Recommended in consulting with us, but we are in no way bound to their plan.
Yeah.
I mean, again, I guess I would expend it, where you're using homeowners' money. Have we ever thought, has the housing partnership ever thought of seniors that are having trouble meeting their mortgages that are low income,
Yes.
giving seniors mortgages?
Yes.
I mean, to me, that's as worthy as giving a renter a mortgage or
Right.
giving a first-time home buyer a mortgage. So again, I mean, it's opening a whole thing that I don't necessarily think should be in our plan right now. I mean, again, if that's something that comes through.
Believe it or not, that great topic was brought up at that class I took in Worcester. Somebody got up there and said they had this person up there representing the Patrick administration, and he was talking about low-income housing and all this kind of stuff. And this lady asked him, well, what are you going to do for people that have been living in their homes their whole lives, now they can't afford their mortgage, because of taxes going up or whatever, disability or whatever. And he didn't have an answer for that.
And 3%.
It's like they're all concerned about getting somebody a house who never had a house, rather than somebody who's had a house and are about to lose it.
Again, it's just, and I don't want to dwell just on housing.
No,
I mean,
yeah.
This can go to historical projects or open space projects. I don't have
Yeah,
down.
no, please go ahead.
My other question I had, and it wasn't in this, I had this one draft here, and it's a little vaguer in this new draft, but it almost, one of them I almost read where if you meet the criteria, if you meet the criteria,
It's been changed since.
you get the money, and now it says if you don't meet the criteria, you need to, here it says that, like, you can,
If you look at,
you had in there, like, if you don't quite meet it, we can ask for additional stuff, but it doesn't.
so it's been changed now. It reads that projects that do not meet or exceed the criteria on the following list may be funded at the CPA's committee's discretion or reevaluated in a future funding round. The CPA will consider the following and appropriate additional criteria when reviewing applications. It doesn't say that you have to meet them or that if you do meet them,
It's automatic.
you're guaranteed them. It just says that if you don't meet them, they may still fund.
Well, maybe because I read it in the other draft, when I read that one, it's
Yeah.
almost to me is implied, well, if you meet them, you get funded. If you don't meet them, well, you can go to the next round and meet them.
We can change
That's
the
just
word.
language thing to make it clear that.
Well, we can change the wording on it to make it more clear that this is the criteria.
This is the criteria.
We'll look at, but the committee hasn't discussed the criteria. We
No,
should
right.
discuss the criteria.
I mean, wouldn't it be something if they could get just a small program off the ground and somehow it succeeded? Where these people, they got into a rental where they couldn't do before and they actually paid the money back. That sounds funny. But actually got the thing running so it was actually, so it was going by itself.
I think it'd be a great program, Harry. I just don't know if that funding mechanism should be the CPA. I mean,
sounds like-
right now, they do have first-time homebuyer programs where people do get down payments, but it comes from federal grants, it comes from other housing
Yeah,
grants.
I know.
It doesn't come from community preservation, which is a tax on homeowners, including seniors that are having trouble. I mean,
I
3%.
I totally agree. Just as you're,
That's it's not the
Idea of it.
idea of it. I'm not against the idea of it, I'm against the funding source.
but, it'd be
Again, I don't think-
interesting.
What?
So how do we resolve this?
So what, that's a good question. How do we resolve
Yeah,
this?
worse here.
Would people be comfortable with leaving the specific language that we got from the different organizations, committees, whatever, municipal entities in the appendix, referencing it in the main document, and do you want to take out, I know I'm looking at you, but everybody, take out specific examples? Do you think it's too concrete and that it would force people into only thinking in those bullet points?
Yeah, I mean, yes, I haven't really gone through the document.
Okay.
And not just holding the whole document to say I'm comfortable with the document as it is. I mean, I definitely, if you put a disclaimer on the appendix saying that
Right.
we're not bound that these are guidelines or in consult, I think, because actual statute says we just have to consult with these groups.
Right, yep.
As long as we put it in there, in consulting with the groups, these are their priorities, but in, like, these community preservation committee is in no way obligated to,
Okay,
Still has the final say. So
right, to
yep.
fund, use their priorities. I mean, again,
We can always add something out there, you know?
something like that. I mean, just
No,
generally.
like, the only issue is that if it is gonna go to the public hearing next month, we do wanna have a mostly, like, from our perspective, a mostly finalized document, since it's then gonna be reviewed by the public. So the only changes we really wanna make after it are from the public comment, and it isn't a great practice for us to show them
Well,
something and then like
well,
change it after.
Well, like last night with that thing, yeah. Same thing.
There's not a timeline though, I mean, right? I mean, I know we're supposed to do this.
No, I mean, that's,
And
right.
again, I only go to the city council, I'm sure Harry does it in the planning board.
Yeah.
A lot of times you open, some of the planning board is a good example, you open a
Right.
public hearing and there's nothing saying at the end of that public hearing, we can't make changes and continue the public hearing to the next month until, right, Harry, how many planning boards you've had something like Stop and Shop that went for 10 months or 12
God,
months?
I don't even-
Or Parsons or whatever.
4 years.
Right.
The only other thing is
I don't think
that
that's what we're
And
saying.
it was
Right.
continued today, by the way.
Oh, was it? I figured.
the only thing that we're trying to, and again, it's up to the committee, but we did tell, and like, among ourselves and kind of broadcast that we weren't going to be reviewing applications until we finalize this document, because we were going to use this to prioritize how we were funding things. So if people are feeling uncomfortable with this and you really feel like it's going to take us like 2 or 3 more months to get it into shape, I don't want to hold up on funding anymore, because we do have the public's money, and like I want to kind of keep the process moving. The other thing is that Jamie's admin time and his ability to work on this plan ceased and desists in July,
End of June.
end of June.
So you're back down
So if that happens,
drop that to
then
the,
I take it on, which
That
is
can't be extended?
fine.
I mean, this committee can do whatever they want, but
Right,
right
they
now,
have to-
right now the funds are set
Yeah.
up.
Well, I mean, the money that we appropriated for your
This is actually
working here?
It's left over from the
from
stuff that didn't
previous.
get used.
I thought we gave something that kept it going. What happened with that deal?
For July going forward for the next fiscal year,
Well, couldn't we just would have some more funds sticking around?
there's enough funds for me to do the lower level of administrative work that I was doing prior.
So, those are all just things to keep into consideration. I don't want to rush people with this. I feel like we've waited 10 years to do this document, so it's going to be great to get it done. But I want everybody to be comfortable with it, because I do want it to be something that we refer to, otherwise it's pointless.
So my thought for the timeline going forward was at the June 20th meeting, so if we can kind of coalesce around a more or less acceptable version of this document to present at the public meeting, we'll solicit comments from the public and whatever other boards or groups want to come to the meeting and weigh in on it. And then the committee I'll take those comments and try to come up with a draft that then at the July meeting, the committee can vote to approve that document as sort of presented with the comments and everything like that.
Yeah, I don't think that's a problem. In other words, as long as we have a meeting, because I mean, obviously you want to have the public, if something
Yeah.
comes out of the public and has a great idea,
Oh,
I
right.
certainly think it should be in the document,
Absolutely. So, what we've at least landed at right now is that the specific language is going to stay in the appendix with a disclaimer, basically saying that these are just ideas, we're not obligated to fund any of them, blah, blah, blah. Are there other kind of bigger things that came up for folks when they were reading through it in any of the categories that we need to talk about, that you feel like should be changed? Anything that was off? Yes.
All right, the only thing...
Harry, you're a thorn in my side. What? Go.
A thorn in your side. Believe I just want to have room in case something comes along that needs funding, that's all.
Okay.
That's the only thing I want to look. I mean, I go along with everything else you got here. I just want to have some wiggle room here in case something shows up that desperately needs funding.
That's not, yeah.
That's not on any kind of priority list.
Could that be part of the disclaimer?
I mean, I think that was the idea, was that these were what we know of, and that,
Yeah, that's all I.
Yeah.
I think it's pretty general what you have now.
Yeah.
You can pretty
yeah, I mean,
much-
basically, there's nothing,
I mean,
in each of the categories, there are ideas of what's eligible, but it doesn't say what the committee's going to fund or what the committee's prioritizing, so there's a lot of flexibility, I think.
Well, that's great, you know, that's,
Okay, so I will reread it and make sure that it's like exceptionally clear to people that this is just these are all ideas, it doesn't hold us to anything, and as long as it's within the categories of CPA, people are.
And I think as long as we have an agreement amongst ourselves that any changes we want to see or language changes we bring at least to the next meeting, and then after hearing that from the public and what we provide, that will give you till July to write the final document and approve it.
you know,
I think we have to have them in by that June, or, you know, like our changes. If we have any little changes, I'm not saying any major changes. Right?
Yeah, I mean, and that should all, I think at the June 20th meeting should be.
Be the final opportunity to.
You know, what I really don't understand is how it got to this point, because none of the people that were on this board, or on this commission, I mean, or we don't want to call it, in all this while, I've been on it maybe a couple of years, maybe 3, something like that, I'm not really sure exactly what it was, and knowing the individuals that were on this thing when I got on it, it's so hard to believe they were operating without being in compliance with this, you know, what we're trying to do now. I mean, you got some... You got some people that were, you know, that were up there. I mean, complimented.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it was just not having this kind of consulting document. This is what I guess I would call this.
I mean, they were just funding things on a cuff. I mean, there was no priority list of any kind. I mean, you know, somebody would come down with something, whether library or housing or whatever, and, you know, you put them a check and that'd be it.
I have no answer for you there.
How did they get to this point?
I don't know.
But we're rectifying it now.
We are, thankfully.
I understand that, but it just...
One thing that I want to make sure everybody is okay with, since I'm looking at it right now, is something we talked about last month, which is we continue to meet monthly, but we fund projects 4 times a year. We accept applications on a rolling basis, but we make decisions at certain points. So a lot of people are okay with that. And then the other thing that was in there is no more than 1/6 of the total available CPA funds will be appropriated to any given funding opportunity.
That was just a suggestion
It
on
was
my
a
part.
suggestion.
So what does that mean? If you got $1 million, you can't get what?
You can't, and if so, if we fund 4 times a year, the committee won't on a regular basis fund something that's gonna blow 3/4 of the total
The rest of the
budget.
year.
And then for the rest of those applications, it doesn't say that.
It says no more than 1/6 of total available CPA funds will be appropriated at any given funding opportunity. This ensures that all projects have equal opportunity for available funds and that flexibility exists for unforeseen
All right, that's
situations.
an example of the baseball thing comes down here, we gotta give them like $250,000 or whatever it is. Do we have the capability?
Right now, the city, the CPA has,
What do we have?
let's see.
Just gave my
We just gave 25 grand.
Okay, so we have 140,000 reserved for open space, 50,000 reserved for historic, 15,000 reserved for housing, 823,000 in the undesignated,
Okay.
and at the close of the
823,000.
So that's the big one. We can use
and
that for
then at the
Yeah.
close of the fiscal year, we'll get the 540,000 in taxes and state match from fiscal year 2012.
So recreation on all those?
43?
Recreation doesn't have a set aside. The way that the set asides work are open space, historic, and housing.
Okay.
Recreation can come out of the open space, or it can come out of undesignated.
Or got some heavy cash coming out of this.
Or, you know, if the CPA wants to decide that they want to start putting aside a 10% for recreation, you know, that's up to the committee if they want to start.
Well, if we get hit by say for an example, we get hit by a football field for 300 grand and 200-something thousand for a baseball field, we're talking, you know,
So it's like,
serious cash.
am I terrible at math?
600
1.6?
grand.
Yeah, probably.
Okay.
So a sixth of that is basically 300,000
$300 grand, 250, 275.
at any given time. I mean,
But, I mean, we've had projects that approach that. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
we can change that, you know.
Well, it must be a guideline too.
It's just so that way that the committee keeps in mind there's 3 more funding cycles in the year, and
You don't want to blow everybody up.
and that there are extenuating circumstances where someone comes in and needs a $500,000 emergency historic preservation thing. I don't know, you know, and so the committee has
The
that
library.
I
flexibility.
definitely like the 4 meetings. I think that's better. I think
Great.
it gives again, I'm not just speaking from
Yeah,
I think it gives a better footprint. I don't think it's as restrictive as some other communities have where you just come in once
Once a year,
But it also has a little bit of structure to it, so people aren't coming in every month. So you have to- The 1/6, I guess I'm still thinking about, and I'm trying to think probably the biggest project, and I wasn't on the committee or the city council at the time, was Echodale Farm. I would just think that that was one of the bigger expenditures. And I was just wondering,
on this,
do you know what that was, like what we expended on that in 1 year?
Echodale Farm was $144,000.
That's all.
Yeah, then the state and federal matches for.
So maybe it was just because the whole project was so large.
The largest project that to date that the CPA has done is the Nashawanack Pond,
which was 300,000.
and then it came back for more funds.
So can we make the 1/6 as a guideline?
Yeah.
So that
I mean, it
something like
could
that
be a
comes up.
quarter, it could be a third.
It
It says
also
no
has to
more,
be
and that's like permanent.
something that we keep internally, and we don't have to put in a document.
Right, I mean, it could just, it'd be completely to the committee's discretion at how much they want to fund per.
But I think it's a good guideline to think about it that way.
No, I do agree with that,
Yeah.
that we do kind of focus it in on, right, I mean, which is.
Just spread it out.
Right.
So
But
do
I
you
don't
want to
want
reword that to
that
say that the
sentence. That's what
committee
says
will.
if the Right, that's correct.
But maybe something around like the committee will take into consideration like funding over the course of the year and, I don't know.
Projects will be approved based on available funding for the
Yeah.
year or something along those lines.
And like internally, we can all kind of just think about like, we are now gonna have 4 funding cycles, this is how much money we have.
We've probably been doing that very long anyway, it's just, it's
Well, not
not.
really.
Well, without the 4, you can't, well.
Right,
without-
yeah,
now
without-
now you're more structured, so you
Right.
tend to.
I will make a crack at rewording that one. Is it one, do you want 1/6 or 1/4 or a
Well,
third?
the other thing, I guess, maybe this would be a question I don't have the answer to, like, when we're doing one quarter, obviously that's every 3 months, right? We're gonna get 3 months worth of projects. Now, if 3 projects, worthy projects come in that 3-month period,
Right.
one for housing, one for open space, one for historic, are we saying that we're limited to like 250 or 300,000 for all 3 of those projects, right? If we do it 1/6 rule.
I
Yeah.
don't think you're saying.
I mean, if they all come in, I mean, I don't know if they'll all come in.
I don't think 1/6 should be a rule. I think it's,
Yeah.
I
And that
would
would
prefer
limit
it
it
to be
to
a
more of a
general, like,
guideline.
internal guideline for us to think about and,
So then I can just remove it from the document, and the committee, it's really up to the committee to decide how they want to fund a project, because there's also opportunities to bond and,
yeah.
Yeah.
Is that okay?
yeah.
Okay.
So.
I think that would be great.
We go to the 4 times a year
Yes.
funding in February, May, August, and November. And that tried to avoid holidays
Holidays.
and things.
Yeah, it's good.
And November might run into Thanksgiving.
That's okay. Totally okay.
A lot of turkeys.
Free turkeys there.
Free turkeys for everybody. Is there anything else that jumped out for people that you want to talk about? Came up, questions, comments, concerns?
I have-
Something that maybe you want to point out, yeah.
I'd like to go through the project ranking criteria,
Okay.
page 15 of the document, and just make sure that they make sense to the committee, whether or not we're missing anything, or if there's things in there that don't work.
Do you have that?
I don't have the latest. This is the one that was on the computer Sunday.
Yes.
I said I read it off the computer.
Oh, okay.
This is perfect. You can really say it's perfect. It's nothing to do. I haven't seen that lady the other day. I had a good talk with her the other night.
Oh, good.
You know, kind of building was going on.
They started off with what was on the CTA application that we've
Okay.
been giving out to people.
Great.
And then it was added to by what I'd seen that made sense from other documents and plans that other communities. So trying to pick what I thought worked for Easthampton, and then
Great.
both Jessica and yourself had comments, and
Yeah.
we shortened up, put it all together now on one list rather than
Yeah.
separate.
Comments, questions, concerns?
Like when we say that the project, does it have to meet all those?
No.
Just has to be in that. You know, I was like, the one that says demonstrates underserved population. I mean, if we did an open space, I mean, I would say that serving the whole town, not
Right.
necessarily, you know what I'm saying? That's, it's not like we would have to buy open space, I would just do one population. It's just, you know, I don't have a problem with that language, I'm just saying,
Yeah, yeah.
you know, it's as long as we're not, like, you have to meet every one of those criteria. I mean, I think there are worthy criteria that we try to follow anyway.
I think it looks good.
Anybody else? Even within the specific ones for open space and historic preservation and community housing? No? People are okay with it? Great. Would you like it to be clarified that it should just meet some of the criteria?
Yeah, I mean, again, it's up to the committee, as long as, I mean, there could be a sentence in there that these are the, you know, the criteria that we're, you know, that the committee will take in.
Take into consideration.
You know, or consider the following criterias when,
Okay.
when looking at the worthiness or the fundability of a project.
It kind of says that in this.
Kind of says that, yeah.
Right there, so if you
I'll
want to tune that up,
I'll
that's
reword
fine.
that a little bit.
Just a little bit to make it
Consider
fine-tuned.
that it's considered, but not
Right.
Mandatory that it meets every single one.
And then the committee can obviously decide on a project-by-project basis, but if someone comes in and shows that they meet all of those for their project, I mean, it would seem that that would be a, I guess, you know, I'm picturing two projects coming in. One meets 7 of the criteria and one
Right.
meets 10 of the criteria. You know, there's no requirement that the CPA is bound to fund the one that meets
It's more than
10
more.
over the one that meets 7.
The CPA should fund,
You know, because it-
in the order that they feel it's best for the community preservation of the town.
Yeah.
In whatever category that is.
But it's just a way to sort of get
Give people, right?
Yeah.
the idea of what the committee's focused on.
And also people that file the application.
I would say it'll
That
help
we're
them
looking for
with
kind of like additional, you know, they're coming in with other funding.
You know, I was looking at the school board presentation they did, and it's like it's property with that football field, but yet they still need a roof on their school. And what's more important, was the roof over on the top of the school, or put it, you know,
Well, it's not for us to decide. I mean, it is for us to decide.
We got their priority list, so that's,
I guess that's, again, that's a good one, you know, so
well,
it's
that's what
not
I'm
just
saying.
doing economy.
They say, no, you're gonna get a roof instead of a, you know. Right.
well, they're not going to get anything that they don't apply for.
Yeah.
Well, I understand all that, but you know, they got.
But again, that's why I think we should have that disclaimer saying that these are what these particular committees want, but it's ultimately our responsibility to decide what.
Right.
Now, maybe a new roof in one of the historic schools, we could, but certainly White Brook, I don't think is historic, I don't know if we could pay for their roof.
I mean, they got it right, you know, they got it, what was it?
No, I know they were kind of general maintenance, a lot of them, as opposed to capital projects.
I will say that the mayor has hopefully lit a fire under the chair of the Historic Commission to get a list to us. We'll see.
The mayor made a complaint
Yes,
about
I know.
something I started.
I know.
So-
I got copied of it, don't worry.
I did pass out the
Hopefully.
the updated list, and that's as of today.
There's a couple new ones in there.
So there's,
Yeah.
basically, we're still waiting on the Conservation Commission and the Historic Commission, and Parks and Rec.
And the Conservation Commission is kind of based on its open space
Right.
And it's going on too,
Did I
so
go
that's
out
why
this
that's, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it might just be that the Conservation Commission's priorities, the priority lands that but we haven't received anything from them
Right.
specifically, so.
We're trying to get through this open space meeting and then talk
Yeah.
about our next, I think it's June 10th meeting.
Yeah,
Okay.
so, I mean, and these can come in, they're a little bit late there.
I'm just trying to get a meeting, I mean, just.
I know.
You can't get a meeting. It's not easy.
Anything else about this plan?
I will, for the next draft I send out, there will be an executive summary. That right now it's just blank,
Yeah.
but there will be an executive summary. And that along with, maybe we should do that later, but I think that's the big missing piece right now is the executive summary. Right? Yeah.
Okay.
The project list, I also pass that up there, so that'll just be in the back for reference for people.
Great. Thank you. I'm going to let you leave most of the discussion on public hearing, so it's your deal. I will say that because we had no one come last year, which makes me feel sad that people didn't want to come.
Oh, I
wasn't
okay,
ready
I
to
remember
go.
that now, because I told John Vader that. I said,
Yeah.
well, you should come, because he runs the Smiley Trust, or
Yeah.
got anything to do with that. I says, you got anything you want funded or anything, let's go, and make sure you show up, and I remember that now. You didn't show up.
So any
What's the date for that?
June 20th.
It'll be the June 20th meeting. We will, we have to publicly advertise it, so
Yeah,
there'll be
on
an
the paper.
ad in the paper, and that's going to go out next week in order to get it. It has to run twice in 2 weeks prior. Here's a draft, and maybe 3 copies too.
Yeah, I got one.
So it's just a draft of what the public notice will say. Hopefully we can just take a second to wordsmith that if there's anything that we want to add or change.
That's fine.
Oh, just don't capitalize draft.
Oh,
Sorry,
okay.
it's me being picky.
No, that's good. It's good. We're going to post the draft plan on the city website,
Oh, great.
so people can hopefully download it and look at it
Fantastic.
before the
Yeah.
meeting. It says that it will be posted on the city's website, so
Better be posted on the city's
it
website.
will be posted.
Change the date on page 5 to 2012, because the meeting was last year,
Where's that?
page 5.
And the-
This document,
The one that,
Oh,
sorry.
I'll call it Sunday document.
Yeah, Sunday,
Sunday's document.
because that meeting was last year, right?
no, I was writing this as if
Oh, okay, all right, okay,
future, so. So, what's going to be will be, and then changing it to
Okay.
was after the.
I know, but you're gonna have it on the website before the 20th, and then,
I can just say a public hearing was held, will be held.
And we can change it afterwards.
Okay.
Thank you.
I don't know, it doesn't
Yes.
matter.
Nope, it does matter.
some of those poke at too.
Yep. Any thoughts about how we can get the word out about public meeting above and beyond putting an advertisement in the paper? Didn't work last year, so.
Well, that's all we did last year.
Right.
So we'll also post it on Facebook. The planning department will,
And the planning department Facebook page.
planning-
Can we put it on the good news page?
that's up to Pat Ruff, who
Awesome.
runs the good
Okay.
news page.
Certainly can ask them.
He's been pretty good about picking up planning department stuff when he thinks it's good news.
If he doesn't think it's, I see that he's explaining.
Don't pass around.
It's sort of like, it's a question of what's good news versus just.
Well,
It's
how
good
about
news.
if you,
I mean, come on, free money.
how about the rest of the board in town that are on TV? I said before the meeting now, before we're having that meeting, Joan Ware, is, the planning board to do it, it's all being recorded in case somebody watches it, and then whoever else comes along.
Okay. If you want to bring it up at the planning board meeting, that would be great. And if everyone wants to bring it up at the meetings, the Conservation Commission, Parks and Rec, City
I'll make sure it's
Council,
announced.
Yeah, in
Housing
case anybody,
Authority.
yeah, in case anybody
We have a June,
watches it.
we have a June 5th meeting.
Oh, great.
I'll have the vice president does a public notice, I'll have them.
Great. Thank you.
Announce it then.
That's good. I feel like that's due diligence on our part to at least let people know about it.
I'm gonna try and see if they'll call you or email you. This kid might get her an after-school program on Monday, or finally next Monday.
Okay.
So,
Judy, is there anything else that we can
Yes.
talk about?
Sorry, I'm just trying
Nope,
to...
sorry, go ahead.
Those two. Okay.
I'm sorry.
Okay, so press release. We didn't do this last year, but what we wanted to do was to generate a press release beforehand, so that way hopefully one of the local papers would run a news story separate from the ad.
Public meeting notice.
So that if we had some press about it, about the public meeting, about what we're trying to do. So again, my goal for next week is to generate that press release and get it to the local press. Basically looking to put in a little bit about the committee, totals that the committee spent and how it's broken down to date, what the purpose of the hearing is, to figure out the project funding priorities, listing what's eligible, a little bit about the CPA, and
Maybe a couple of things that were done already, so they know.
Yeah, I think, and I would pick something really visible, like the windows up in Riverside.
okay.
Because everybody can see that. It's like, oh.
15 Cottage Street.
What?
15 Cottage Street.
It hasn't happened yet.
yeah, that's something that's right now.
It's something that they could see visually.
Yeah.
Well, everything's in place.
Yeah.
It's not,
All the funding's been there.
But you know, one of us said we gave money to this and then the last
Notice the window.
where the money
Yeah.
went.
Yeah, exactly. We're at 250,000.
I will, before I send the press release out, I will send it to Alexis to make sure that we are on the same page, but just wanted to get the committee on board for what's going on with
If
that.
you've got a whole report, because I was sitting next to her today.
Rebecca?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
She would, I imagine she would run something for you, probably.
Right, but the way you generate this is by making the press release and then,
Don't you go in?
yeah, and then they...
I can just
if
go to
they-
Nebraska and give it to her.
Yeah, and I'll send it to her too.
If they have additional questions, I'll
And then
call
they call and they write the story based off what we're trying to, at least some of the talking points that we want hit on are in the press release, so they make it into the story without
Yep.
on the telephone.
So you'll send it to me before you send it out?
Yes.
Thank you.
And then let's...
Handouts?
Oh, yes. So we're gonna have a handout for anyone who shows up. It'll be two-sided, very simple. One side is going to be the executive summary from the report, and the other side will just basically say about the plan, what we're trying to do. A little, basically the press release on one side and the executive summary on the other side. So that way someone shows up, they can get the gist of what the document is without having to have it.
Can you maybe,
And again, I will share that with...
oh, that's great. What I was gonna say is, could you maybe do, you have the pie chart in the plan?
Yep.
I think that'd be really helpful if there are people here from the public to see
Yeah.
where our money's gone in the past.
Yep, okay.
Because we're not,
So I'll put
until
that-
now, like, our name isn't on anything, and I'm sure, like, when we fund something big, we get a story in the Gazette. But not everybody can get to that, nobody cares about it. But being able to see visually, like, oh,
Yeah.
that's where that's going.
Well, something to go right down here, right, yeah, but
And I think
Yeah.
the really cool thing about that is it shows the matches,
Yeah,
which, the little wedge that's CPA funding and the
the
large
bigger project.
piece
great,
of what...
which is great, because I think people also don't understand what CPA money can leverage. So that's awesome. Yeah, if you wouldn't mind doing that too, that'd be
Yeah.
fantastic.
So that's my work for next week.
Okay.
Anything else on there?
Nope, not under public hearing.
Okay.
The other thing you have on here is the rules and the bylaws, which, did you do? Because I was going to do it.
I
haven't
didn't, but,
No.
no. But you next, when you get to it, we get more important And then finally the application.
Updated version.
This is, I think, more recently updated than what the one. Basically, my concern on this was the criteria on the back doesn't exactly match now what's in the report.
Oh, well, it should.
So do we want to strike this and match it to what's in the plan, or just reference it in the plan, just say, see the, I mean, I think it would be good to have the criteria here for everyone to see.
I think that this, since we just talked about the plan, I think this needs to line up with the.
So,
We'll choose those other criteria.
right, the criteria that's in the plan, we could
Yeah.
add it in.
That's okay. Is there any way that we could get this form online? Is it online?
It is online, it's on the city's website.
Thank you.
But the draft is not.
Oh, but is it like fill outable or is it a PDF?
It's a PDF, but it's fillable.
It is?
I'll double check. It depends on your software.
That's not a word, I know, but.
So do we want to, can the committee, is this draft form good enough to use until we get the new, or can I just switch out?
Just switch it out
and
and
then
go for it.
That will become the official form?
Yes,
Okay.
I think people okay with that.
No problem.
Sorry, I just made it.
Which month is our first, if we go with that 4 days, what month is the first?
Oh, I'll add that in here too.
But it is,
I think it's February.
Because that should be on the
2,
form too.
5,
right?
8,
Like if you submit a project, it'll be reviewed in the following months or whatever.
yeah.
But I think
It's 2, 5, 8, 11. And we should figure that out because, I mean, in the past, the CPA hasn't met in August or July, or sometimes one or the other. So people,
Depends on what was,
I mean,
Yeah, it depends on,
what came.
I don't take vacation, so I don't know.
Okay, what came up for
Most of us are
projects.
like- Yeah.
Didn't you say that Bob did it that way? Whatever came up for projects, it would either go to that or just,
right, but if we're saying that we'll have a funding,
Decision meeting in
Decision
August,
meeting in
and that's
August
like
is the
difficult for
committee.
people to.
I mean, I kind of think we should, or the committee should decide what those 4 months are going to be.
I think if something comes up, we should have a meeting, personally. Not just make it, they're caught, okay, now it's done. I mean, if something comes up like in the middle of the 3 months or whatever, they can have a meeting.
just mechanics wise, so say, whatever, we'll say historic preservation. Somebody
Yeah.
decides they want a project and they're sitting at home right now thinking about it.
Yeah.
Okay, they're drafting it up. And they come to the August meeting and submit it. When do we actually fund it? You get what I'm saying? Do we have to fund it before February? In other words, is our funding, I guess that's what, I'm not.
They have to get it to us a month before,
So they would have to actually get it to us
Yeah.
by July.
right?
Yeah.
To fund
Make
it
a
in
decision
August.
in August.
Right. So if they didn't, again, this won't be out till July, I guess what I'm saying, so almost the first year here, where the August to February, we're almost,
Playing catch up.
but what if it takes long?
Well, you're missing November.
There's a November hit also.
yeah, right. Oh, okay, yes, November, so if they submitted, we would have to, it'd have to be at least,
But basically, anything that...
anything before November, so be up to October, we can do it in November. but-
Right.
Right. I mean, it just gives the committee time to review the
I don't think once we get going, it's gonna be a problem, I'm just looking at this first
Initial.
Yeah.
this initial round of, I think we're gonna lose a couple months, again, if there's any projects out there, I don't know if the football one's
Did they
still out there.
resubmit from Parks? Okay. So
I-
yeah.
Okay, it's nothing.
So they asked to resubmit.
Right.
I think I copied
Yeah.
in the email. We're waiting for the school department has to
Has
have
to
one
submit it, right.
that submits it, and I think they're going to try to submit it at the June meeting, but they were told that they can't make a presentation.
So, but they won't be able to do it at the July meeting either, will they? Because,
Well,
No,
they
they
can
could
submit it in
submit it.
June, and we could decide on it in August.
right, I guess you could do that. If they submitted it in July, you could.
Yeah, I mean, they can, yeah, so they submit it.
But if they, I'm just trying to, if they submitted it in July, let's just say that.
Yeah.
We obviously couldn't work on it in July because we're doing a public hearing
Public hearings in June.
of June.
Public
Oh, we're
hearings
going to
in
approve
June.
it July. Okay, got it.
So it should just be the July, the plan for July should just be an up or down vote.
Right. So we could work that.
So
Yeah.
they're,
If
that's
somebody had a
the,
project.
Yeah.
yeah.
But they would have to really have it in before July because you can't get it that night and really adequately talk about it. So it wouldn't be on your public hearing. I mean, on your public.
Right. But they know that, so it's up to them to get it to us.
So do those months work? July,
Is that okay? Is
Or
August difficult for people to have a meeting to come here? Is that okay? I don't know if people tend to
That's the question
leave.
I had, what if we don't have enough?
Well, so that brings up another question, and
What
I
percentage?
have thought about this, and I don't, like, I want to talk to everybody about it, but Mr. Sparko tends to not be here. And as I said, like, I think I was on CPA for 6 months and I'd never seen him. There is a statute in the city bylaws saying that if a committee member misses more than 3 meetings, the committee can make a decision to remove that person. My concern is not with him, but it's meeting a quorum, because we do not have the Roma's position filled. And if Ed continually isn't here, and he doesn't tell me if he's not showing up. So I don't know if people have thoughts. I mean, I wouldn't just we technically can vote to remove him from the committee. I then have to send him a certified letter saying you've been removed, and he has I think 5 days or a week to get back to me and kind of weigh in. I wouldn't want to do that. I don't want to call him and say, you haven't been here. I mean, because we're a small committee, we make important decisions, and if we're missing a person continually.
How many openings do we have now?
there are 2 open right now. We are missing
Historic.
the Historic Commission and a City Council representative. The City Council
think that-
representative has to be
They're
not
voting on it.
active.
Not a counselor, it has to be someone.
Right, you're the only
Active.
one can be the finance, is the only active council.
But I want to say something, and Justin isn't thinking he's leaving for a few days, but I think someone was going to apply, so I don't know.
The mayor said that someone was going to apply.
Yeah, I think there's someone in the, I don't know exactly, so I don't want to commit to that, I didn't hear.
Yeah.
So hopefully that one will get.
The Historic Commission could be taken care of very easily if we have a meeting.
Right.
Because I could, what I was planning on doing was I was going to, because I'm here representing the planning board, what I was going to do, I was going to quit that, from the planning board, and then I'm on the commission, but we can't, whatever. I was going to be a representative from them, and then we could just take somebody on their planning board and have them come here, so we would, would take my place, and I'd take Roma's place.
The way that it works
And we
is you
also-
actually do end up filling the rest of Roma's term, which expires at the end of this year.
Yeah, whatever, I'm not sure how it works, but I could.
No, I mean, so you would fulfill the rest of her term, and someone would then fulfill the rest of your term from the planning board.
Yeah, something like that.
And then when her term expires in the end of December, you would have to then reapply as the historic.
Well,
But that's,
yeah. All that side, we basically
And
have.
Mr. Sparkle, how?
I don't know.
he's on the city, he's the other city council.
Because there are there's 2, I'll
Yes.
call them
Well, how about
non-council.
Bob Harrison's spot?
That's the one, I think, the other city council one.
Yeah.
That's the one that's empty for the city council.
You got any idea who would be interested in that?
Well, I think there's a one coming forward. That's why I said I don't.
Do you have any idea what that is?
Huh?
Do you have any idea what that is?
I heard a first name, but I don't want to really say, because I don't know if they're official. I think it
I don't
hasn't
know if
come
they are.
out
I
yet,
don't
so
think they
it's.
I'm just hoping it's something I'm thinking about, so.
Give it an initial.
Yeah.
It'd have to be the first.
I actually heard this.
Give me a name and I'll know if I'm gonna resign.
So anyhow, we don't need to even talk about it further than that. I just want to let everybody know that that is a possibility. I do want to make sure, I think it's important if you're going to be on a committee that you show up. And I try to be here as much as I can. I know everybody else does, and it is a time commitment, but we're all doing this voluntarily.
In defense of that, when I first was on, he was here most every meeting. So I
Right.
guess, my question is it a fact he can't make it, he doesn't want to make it? Does he still want to serve? I mean, has anyone ever asked him, do you still want to?
No, but I mean, I
He
do
was
know.
recently reapproved by the city council
Yeah.
in December. His term was extended for another 3 years, so.
He really does, no, all joking aside, go to North Carolina and South Carolina to go
In
gold
summer. So
gold
when
panning.
he's gone-
No, he goes gold mining for months at a time. So he is gone.
Oh, you got his private number, don't you?
I'm not gonna get involved, you know?
So I'm just putting it out there. I would like to make sure that we do have enough people so we can vote it.
When
So,
would the August meeting be? What date?
Third Thursday.
but hold on, I can tell you.
Fifth Thursday? And then I'm on vacation, I think it's 10th through 17th.
18.
It's the 15th.
Yeah, I wouldn't be here, just so you know.
Okay.
So do we want to reevaluate August?
Vacation, rare occurrence.
Okay.
I mean, we can also move it to the next week.
Ocean City.
Right, I mean,
Well, whatever. Honestly, we can talk about it later.
I just wanted to.
But thank you. I will keep that in
Of
mind.
course, the first meeting I was at, Mr. Sparkle made it clear that if we televising these meetings, he's done.
He's gone anyway, so.
Right. Well, yeah.
It was pretty clear about that, if I recall.
He was very clear about that. And I think
Yeah, I'll never
maybe
forget
it's
that,
very
no, we
clear
took that
about
vote, that was a classic.
Okay.
Yeah, I know.
Anything else that people want to talk about? That we need to talk about? People understand why we're having a public meeting and what we're going to do there. Jamie's going to get us an updated, hopefully mostly final draft.
Is it the upstairs or downstairs?
and then I would ask if,
Upstairs. Oh, no, I think here. Public meetings in here, right? Or are we upstairs?
I mean, the notice that I've said, it says down here, but if we think that we're going to have a big enough showing, we should go upstairs to the city council chambers.
Yeah, like last night, it was perfect, you know?
Thoughts? Upstairs?
How do you know how many people are even going to show
I
up?
mean, we can just schedule it upstairs,
Yeah.
and if we have
Might as
5
well.
people in the audience.
Then we have a nice spot to have our meeting, not the
It
basement.
wasn't nice last night.
No, last night it was
97
95.
degrees.
Oh, no.
Yeah, pretty hot in there.
The AC broke.
Pretty warm.
They got that fixed now.
So we gotta do
Okay.
If you have it upstairs, you got to make sure, and you want to tape it, you got to make sure you get something from ECAD. And that's
Yeah.
not something you can, the chair can, there's no
Okay,
access.
I see.
There's no
Oh,
access.
okay, I have Kathy's contacts.
Yeah,
There's no access
Okay.
to the camera.
That'd be something to get, you know,
Yeah.
pretty cool.
Okay, so we'll do city council chambers.
Okay.
Um,
Anything else?
So I'm going to try to set out the draft plan, the updated draft plan with the executive summary either at the end of next week or early the following week.
Okay.
And I'm going to send it to, I guess, Alexis first, and then she'll distribute it to everyone.
Is that okay? Is email okay with everybody? Is that okay? Okay.
So,
You need to check your email.
I do,
Okay.
when I'm at work. Keep sending me out, so I gotta...
Okay. Great. I've got nothing else. Everybody can go home to their hot houses.
do it for yourself.
My house is gazillion degrees already.
Keep your shades.
Oh, you know what? I don't know, whatever. I don't really have shades on the backside of my house.
Put the blinds, the shades,
Yeah.
whatever.
All right.
Plant trees.
Oh, yeah. We have this meeting. Do we need to vote to end the meeting? I don't think so. All right.
You're supposed to.
Yes, actually, those here.
Motion to adjourn.
I second the motion.
Everybody. Great. Thank you.
Jay, can you hit the camera?
Oh, you want to see something really funny?
Yes.
Wait.